the granular details of this particular case that has taken, of course, 7 to 8 years, as we've been informed by our reporters there. But good evening and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been a long day, I know, in the corridors of justice today, but they always say the wheel of justice stands slowly, but grind exceedingly fine.
Yes,
It's been a long wait, and finally justice has been, of course, meted out to the late Sharon Otieno. Let's just begin from what FIDA's perspective was, that this verdict, as you described it, proves that nobody is above the law. Mm-hmm. Let's begin from there.
For a long time, we've been waiting for this judgment because as it started, you saw how political it turned out to be, and also how the victim's family, when there was so much pressure on them, and what will be the outcome of this. So at FIDA Kenya, for us, access to justice is the main thing. Regardless of the position and regardless of who you are, access to justice is our main aim. And for us, access to justice meant that the family was able to get justice through the pro bono legal system that we have. We engaged a pro bono advocate to be able to watch brief on behalf of the family so that they can be able to access justice.
Yeah, so you mentioned it was influenced by politics, and I'm just wondering, to what extent does, you know, the influence of politics, wealth, social status also affect access to justice from your own assessment with this particular case?
From a greater perspective, you find that most of the time people feel justice is inaccessible, and it's only accessible to those who can be able to afford it. For those who cannot be able to afford legal fees, or perhaps they are not in a better position to be able to follow up on their matters, that justice will do away with it. But we are happy with this judgment because it has proven that the court is independent, that the process was independent, fair, and we had a survivor-centered justice system in terms of what the victims look at is in terms of justice to them.
Right, and we had, of course, this case attracting a lot of media attention throughout, you know, the 8 years that has been ongoing. And I was also just thinking and wondering, how did media coverage influence public awareness, accountability, and even the pursuit of justice? Did you think this really aided in terms of meting out justice because it was in the full glare of the media, of which many say that the perpetrators were greatly shy because this particular incident that led now to the murder of Sharon Otieno will have leaked to the media, right? Of course, the pregnancy that wanted to be kept under wraps. I
think for this particular judgment, from what we've heard from this particular judgment, before even the matter came out, the matter was already in the public, and they tried to have it sanctioned away from the public with the different meetings that were talked about in the judgment that was delivered. But for some reason, whatever they tried to hide was not able to hide for that long time. The matter eventually came out. The media picked it up. And it was a highly, like you said, publicized court process. And from what we could see, the media played a great role in terms of how the evidence was given, how the evidence was shared out, what came out of the transactions that we could hear, from what the evidence was given through the prosecution witness, the PW, how many were they, 42 of them, 81 exhibits. So the media, let's just say the media helped in terms of the trial. They were able to show the case, the evidence, bit by bit as the court process continued throughout the 8 years or 7 years and 10 months you talk about, yes.
It also, the judgment coming during a time where one of the niggling worries is all about also femicide, gender-based violence as it stands right now. And the question then becomes, how can Kenya strengthen legal protection to ensure that women in abusive or unequal relationships can seek help before, violence escalates?
For most of the time, we look at the reactive part. I would say if we are able to fight gender-based violence, it is best to have a preventive mechanism and not a reactive mechanism. For most of the time, we wait for somebody to be in trouble or for the matter to proceed, to escalate to a point where there's no return, and that is when we react. So on terms of gender-based violence, yes, our women, if ever you're experiencing gender-based violence, take the initiative to report, ensure that action is taken against the perpetrator. If you can be able to move to a safe place, that is important for you. And prevention all the time. It starts with a simple, I will beat you, I will do this. And then it escalates to killing, it escalates to murder. And that is why we say creating awareness through the different channels that we have, whether it is through the community sensitization, whether it is through the media, whether it is through any other method that we can be able to raise awareness in terms of gender-based violence. Because as it is, women are targeted in terms of their gender. That's why we say femicide is more of a gender-based form of killing. It is targeted towards women. And as femicide, as we speak now, we have a walk where we'll be talking about femicide again, because as it seems, we had a task force that gave us the recommendations, but we still haven't seen anything that has been done up to date. That's why we talk about the preventive and not the reactive part. If we can be able to prevent it before we get to the reactive part, we'll save so many lives, and we'll not be witnessing what we had witnessed today, a family going through the turmoil for the last 8 years.
Indeed.
For them to be able to gain justice.
Right, so you talk about the recommendations from the task force, and implementing it is a different kettle of fish altogether. From your own standing as FIDA Kenya, what have you been doing to make sure that implementation is done? You're talking about, you know, the works that you'll be doing. Is that one of the initiatives? But aside from that, what else?
Aside from that, we have the policies that we normally advocate for, policies that support women. We train on technologically facilitated gender-based violence and how we can avoid that. We talk about the prevention mechanisms. We work with the Court Users Committee. We give the recommendations. We work with the Court Users Committees to be able to strengthen the effectiveness of the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act. Many people don't use it, and this supports women, especially who are in private relationships, so that they can be able to be protected under the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act. We talk about police, how we can be able to train police officers to create awareness on how they can be able to handle gender-based violence. And the gender desk, we also train so that they can be able to take in information on how they can be able to handle gender-based violence matters when they're reported to them, and they're not treated as just normal crimes. These are some of the effective systems that we use for us to be able to support women who are undergoing gender-based violence. And part of the recommendation of the task force was a lot of creation of awareness from the lower areas, the grassroots level, before you come to the county level. So people are aware, they can take action, and they can also be able to propagate to other. They can be trainers of trainers.
Trainers of trainers.
TOTs.
TOTs, thank you. Okay, you're talking of police and of maybe other investigative bodies that we do have. Are you satisfied with the level of investigation and prosecution, especially of femicide cases here in the country, or there's room for improvement?
The police try their best for them to be able to handle the investigation within the expertise that they have, but we can be able to develop more expertise in terms of how we can be able to open up the levels of which we can expose the police and the, police section, so that they can be able to have more awareness on how they can be able to handle femicide. If we can be able to benchmark with countries which are a bit more advanced in terms of how they deal with the issues of femicide currently. Maybe if we can look at South Africa, because for them gender-based violence or femicide is a crime that is widely, they talk about it so openly, and they are able to actually facilitate on issues to do with femicide. So if we can be able to benchmark with such countries on how they handle matters to do with femicide, maybe Kenya will be at a better place in terms of how we can be able to investigate issues to do with femicide.
So I was just looking at Article 27 of the Constitution, guarantees, of course, equality and freedom from discrimination. And I wanted just to ask this question about Sharon Otieno's judgment. How does it reinforce these constitutional protections for women from your own assessment?
From my assessment, the right to life, the right to dignity, and also the Constitution talks about the right to a fair trial and the right to fair hearing. I think all these ingredients were a very huge part of the judgment that we received today in terms of the murder and the case in terms of the murder of Sharon Otieno. And the Constitution speaks largely towards the dignity of a person. So for me, I believe we've restored the dignity. We may not be able to bring back the late Sharon, unfortunately, but at least we've been able to give the family a sense of closure in terms that they know that the justice system actually turns, and justice delayed does not mean justice has been denied.
So from your own maybe accurate appraisement, what do you think is bringing the uptake right now of the gender-based violence and femicide, that is happening? Many of our women now are really suffering. What is really exacerbating this? just generally looking, is there a disorder that is happening in the society? Is there a disparity between men and women that is leading to this, especially in this epoch of time that we're living in?
I think at this epoch of time that we're living in, we've normalized gender-based violence. It no longer, people are no longer worried about gender-based violence. It happens, it's okay, and we move on, but it is not okay. Because as we speak now, many women are dying, and many women don't report this. Every other day you talk about a woman has been killed, a woman has been murdered, but we take it as though it's a normal occurrence. We look at the cultural norms that we have that support this, the patriarchal system that we have, that also contributes to this. We also look at the way in which we relate with each other, the lack of communication in most of the relationships, the loss of the church. The church should also be able to be a huge factor, the faith-based institutions, because that is where most of the women who undergo gender-based violence, that is the first point. The research within which we do, that is the first point of reporting. And at that particular level, that is where we need to create awareness on what should be done and what should happen if I come and report that I'm experiencing gender-based violence. We should not normalize it as a normal occurrence because it is not normal.
Do you think also there may be patriarchal underpinnings that is driving this as well, that as a society, maybe we've not really moved on, we are still attached to this, some of its traditional, cultural, societal constructs?
Culture is important, and we embrace culture, but when we have culture that is retrogressive, that does not respect women and does not hold women to any position of high esteem, then it becomes a problem. So we need to have a lot of male engagement, men to boys engagement, to be able to teach our boys at the young level that respecting women is paramount. It is not negotiable. And that taking the life of anyone, whether be it woman or man, especially when it is targeted killing towards women, is wrong, and it is outright unacceptable.
Finally, maybe I should also just ask on a collaborative effort that is, from the civil society, maybe FIDA Kenya as it stands right now. We have the National Gender and Equality Commission. Also, we have the Justice. How are you working harmoniously to make sure that these issues of gender-based violence is being highlighted? Policies also are being framed around it. Parliamentarians also are reacting to it. What is the effort? What is the stand that you do have that you can say this is what we've done so far and this is the milestone that we've made?
Excuse me. For one, the case that we've handled today is a milestone for us. Yes, because we've been able to take up, I talked about pro bono services. So FIDA is very wide on pro bono services so that no woman feels they're left out because they cannot afford legal fees, they cannot get legal representation, and that access to justice is only for the few who can be able to afford it. So that is part of what we are able to do, creating community awareness, offering free legal aid services, and for us, what else do we do? Institutional strengthening, so that we can be able to have information about gender-based violence, how to stop it, where to go, the referral pathways, how you can be able to be supported if it happens to you. At the police station, what happens, what kind of records do you need to have, what kind of evidence do you need to keep, so that when you have your case presented, you do not lose out because your case does not have the correct evidence for you to get a conviction.
All right. Okay, finally, maybe I can just give you your closing remarks. Moving forward, where do we head from here? Briefly.
Wow. Where do we head from here? From here, we can only go better. I think today's judgment is an indication that we are doing the right thing. No matter how long it takes, we are still at it. We will not stop. We will continue. And access to justice is here. And we will always fight for the rights of women and children to be able to access justice. And at the end of the day, it pays off.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Brenda Yambo from the FIDA Kenya. We really do appreciate your sentiments here, just giving us granular details of, the gender-based violence in relation to also the murder of Sharon Otieno, who has received finally her verdict today and justice has been rolled out. Thank you very much for joining us on TV47.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Right. Senior Principal Magistrate Alois Ndege has dismissed the 1.1 billion shillings Finland scholarship saga case, clearing former Uasin Gishu governor and current